I want you to imagine that you have retired at the age of 37. You are worth upwards of $3 million. You own a large condominium in the best part of town, let's just say River Valley in Singapore. You have 2 cars. But here's the kicker. You did not buy Bitcoin when it was $1. You did not buy Tesla when it IPO'd. You did not get into a startup that, just went crazy. You just did a regular job and you worked your way up. And talking about working, you are not the person who worked 7 days a week, 100 hours a week, or whatever it might be. You basically worked the regular 50 hours a week and no weekends. Is this even possible? But let me tell you, it is possible, because this is kind of my story and I'm going to tell you more. So folks, just to introduce myself, my name is Utkarsh Mohan. I'm 37 years old. I'm Singaporean. I'm originally from India. I came to Singapore at the age of 18. And I indeed did retire from the corporate world about 5 months ago. I was working as the head of marketing of a fairly large business unit in a fairly large company. But that was my past life. I am now retired. Me and my wife, Nidhi, who is also selling Singapore, #1 real estate agent. No, I'm just doing just having fun with her. And Mrs. Singapore, I'm having more fun with her again. We live in River Valley. We have 2 cars. We have 2 dogs. I don't think our lifestyle is the most opulent out there. You have really rich people out there who fly business class and do everything. I don't really do that. But at the same time, I have everything I can possibly want. I'm driving my dream car and I love cars. I get to eat the best food. I'm never short of anything. And the best part is my time is my own. So it's like the best of all worlds, because you could be getting all these things, but you could be crazily going out there trying to earn that paycheck. So that's the main reason. That's the main place where one wants to be. Is you don't necessarily need to be the richest person in the world. You need to just have enough, but you need to have it. You need to have it. You need to truly own it. You don't want to be compelled by other people to do things that you don't want to do with your time. So that's where I am right now. What I want to talk about is how to get here, and how getting here doesn't have to be impossible or crazy or something that you need to be extremely lucky about. I think it's just a question of being conscious and smart about it and deliberate about it. And that's what I want to talk about. In Singapore, there is this concept of 5 C's where you're supposed to have like a condo and a car and a credit card or some other things. But for me, as I was thinking about my journey, and it's been a long journey. I am 37. I have worked for 15 years. It's been a lot of learning. It's been a lot of coaching from people much better than me. I don't believe I have all the answers. I am certainly not the most successful even amongst my peer group. But I do believe I have accidentally come upon a way of doing things that has worked out for me to get me to a place that I'm pretty happy with. And because I am from the corporate world, I have kind of distilled it down into a formula, so to speak. Well, not really a formula. It's just 3 things. I call it the 3 C's, and this video and a bunch of videos that I will be making on this channel after this will be about these 3 things. And the 3 things are career, #1, capital, and choices. And let me just distill down each of these 3 things very briefly, and we will explain it later. #1, career. So reality is that most of us don't come into the workforce or in general into the world with a lot of money. I mean, inherited wealth is there for a very, very limited few. Most of us come with 0 or nothing or less. Personally, I came to Singapore with a debt of $50,000 because that was my student loan. So, and the point is, we need a career. We generally need a career, and generally a corporate career is a good way to accumulate capital, which we will come to in the second point. So you do need to understand how to do well in your career, how to do well in the corporate world or whatever other means that you choose to do a career in, how to do well in it in order to accumulate the capital in order to further your goals. In my particular case, I started off, my first salary in 2008 when I started working was 3,250 Singapore dollars a month, or say 40,000 Singapore dollars a year. By the time I ended my career, my compensation was 10x that. My last compensation was about $400,000 a year, give or take. So how do you go from $40,000 a year to $400,000 a year? It's not about being the hardest worker. It is not about just killing yourself and doing that. No, it's about getting results. So when I talk about career, it'll really be about that particular aspect. How do you grow your career? How do you grow your compensation? How do you serve yourself, not only your company? But you do need to serve both at the end of the day. So that's point number one, which is career. Point number two is capital. Now, here's a thing that many people take a very, very long time to realize. And personally, I am one of them. I think I was about 30. So 7 years ago, relatively recently, when I realized this. And what it was is that there are a couple of ways to make money. You can work for it, or you can leverage not leverage, let's not say the word leverage, that's a separate meaning which we can talk about. Or you can use the capital that you create through working and use that capital to create money for you. In my particular case, my way of growing my capital has been real estate.
This is a quick voice note from me in the future. I forgot to mention the key number. And the key number here is we managed to grow $80,000, 80, in cash invested in real estate. We managed to grow that to about $2 million cash. There's a CPF component that's different. I will cover a little bit about this in one of my upcoming videos.
But there are many, many ways to do it. You know, you have stocks, etc. I'm not going to be a financial expert. I will merely take you through my journey of how I have done it. Real estate has been one part of it, but of course, other aspects have also been in there. It's not that you can just buy a house and make money and blah, 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 end of the world. But it's more about a mindset, about realizing how capital can be used to create more capital and create a cash flow. So that's kind of going to be point number two, which is capital. Point number three is the most tricky and the most complex one. I wanted to make the 3 C's concept, so I just called it choices, but I want to elaborate a little bit as I talk to you about it. We all want things in life. Let's be very, very clear, right? We all have passions. My particular passions are a little bit, well, let's just call them capital intensive, for lack of a better word. I like cars and I live in Singapore. So for those of you who live here, yes, you are already raising your eyebrows. So yes, I have currently, me and my wife, we have 2 cars. But I have owned multiple cars in Singapore. So that's a little bit crazy. If you're trying to be financially prudent to have a car in Singapore and to change a car in Singapore, that's a little bit crazy, but such is life. So the choices point is not about how to be frugal, how to not have that $5 cappuccino or, all the kind of stuff that you hear. It's about how can you know yourself, how can you know the market, and everything in the world, whatever you're buying and selling or whatever you are paying for in this economy is a market at the end of the day. How can you know yourself? How can you know the market? And how can you leverage your knowledge of yourself, your knowledge of the market, particularly in things that you're interested in, and I'll get to this in a second, and derive the maximum value while actually sometimes not even spending any money. And I'm going to get to it in a second because you're going to raise eyebrows. So I love cars. That has been my singular biggest expense, but it's been accounted for as I've done my calculations. The other thing I'm very fond of, and probably the multiple elephants in the room, is look behind me. I love guitars. I'm a musician as well. I have a guitar collection. Now, guess what? This is a very different kind of thing because musical instruments are like an alternate asset. It's almost like paintings. So while I love guitars, this hobby or this passion of mine has not cost me money. On the contrary, this passion of mine has made me a significant amount of money. And we'll get into that. So it's a very interesting thing that I could turn a passion into a money-making source. This is not me trying to make it into a business. I'm not necessarily buying and selling guitars a lot. There is a certain value as it goes up with time. So knowing yourself and making some deliberate choices. So for me, things I don't care about. I don't care too much about fine dining. I don't care too much about, I worked in the corporate world. I was constantly traveling all the time. I was constantly living in 5-star hotels. So that fascination that some people have of going to a 5-star hotel or going to an exotic location was just not there with me, because I used to spend 6 months of the year in Tokyo at one point in time, shuttling back and forth every 2 weeks. So then I did not feel the need to spend that much money on travel, because I already got to travel so much and I leveraged, whatever travel I had. So I've spent a little bit more time on the third point, because this is very, very individual. But how you are very deliberate and strategic with your choices will make a huge difference to how you end up allocating, spending capital, and having a good time with your life, actually. So that's what this particular YouTube channel is going to be about. I am not trying to be a coach. I'm not trying to be a financial YouTuber. I have no interest in these two things. But at the same time, with all the conversations that I've been having with people since my retirement, I realized that there is indeed a need. And I feel like a lot of people of my age, a little bit older, a little bit younger, feel a lot of pressure in their day-to-day. They feel a little bit of despair. They feel a sense of, where is this going? Will I ever get to a place where I'm happy? Or is it that I'm constantly on the treadmill of earning more money so I can buy the things I want, so on and so forth? We all feel it. I felt it as well. So the purpose of this entire channel and this entire YouTube series is just to help with that and tell you a little bit about my path. The other thing that I really am very interested in is helping people gain from the knowledge, the learning, and the coaching that I have received. I have received, working in the company that I did, I had some incredible coaches when it came to a corporate thing. And, there are so many mistakes that I used to make, and there are so many mistakes that people make. And there are so many cases where people work extra hard and they just kill themselves for the job, and actually it's not very effective. So the first part of this series, which is on career, is really going to get to the heart of, if you really had somebody from a senior leadership position, like I was in a senior leadership position, actually sharing with you what it really is, what are people really looking for, how do you really get ahead, how do you really add value. That's really what I want to bring to you. Reality is that most people in my position generally are not too concerned with sharing this beyond their immediate reportees or their immediate organization. This kind of coaching is usually reserved for them. And because most people in my position are then too busy, because they need to move on to the next level. They need to move on to general manager or then CEO or whatever it might be. I'm not on that path. I never wanted to be on that path. I did go on that path because it just turned out to be something that matched everything that I was about and what was good for the organization. But what I want to do is I want to bring across some of that knowledge to you. And there's a lot in there. That's 15 years worth of distilled things. I really want to there's some things that are so simple that I wish that, I can't share it in this video, but it's almost like I'll tell you about something and then you're like, oh my God, I can just do this simple thing and it's going to be so much easier. Capital, I will be a little bit less of an expert. It's really very focused on a little bit on real estate, a little bit on conventional knowledge when it comes to other things, other standard sources of investment such as stocks and bonds. Don't expect me to be the ultimate expert on that, but I will distill because I've done a lot of research on this. One of my obsessions, and I'm kind of a little bit of an analytical person that way, as you can guess, is that I love doing math in my head all the time, like spreadsheets and stuff. And one of them is always financial simulations, not for work, but for my own life. So I'll just share with you my philosophy. And for choices, I will just share with you my mindset and the deliberate way in which I have designed my life that, hey, I have two passions, cars and guitars. One's cost me a little bit of money, other makes money for me. I don't really spend too much on other things. Even the way I've designed my life when it comes to living is my house that I live in, I'll have a wonderful large house, actually makes me money. And we'll get into stuff like that. Okay, so I hope that this will be interesting. This is but the first video. I'll be releasing a video once a week and maybe a bunch of shorts just to keep things, a little bit more digestible for people who don't like long form content. And I'll see you again on this journey. Till then, take care.